What's up? How you doing? Here we are, Saturday night, and I'm having a fresh cup of Lipton tea. I love Lipton. I love tea in general, but I love Lipton. Anyway, I have my watches here. I have a couple of watches out tonight. One is a Casio. Look at that. Like this watch a lot. Takes a beating. Has a really nice thick band on it. Looks like, I don't know, what is that, half leather, and the top part is like canvas. Very nice watch. I don't know. Has a calendar on it. But yeah, like these tough watches. And then I have a bunch of these, but here's one. Timex. I've been a fan of Timex since I was that big. It's not an expensive watch. It's not something where you spend $10,000 on. This is probably like, what, $50? But I love Timex. And if it breaks on you, or you lose it, or whatever happens to it, not a big deal. It's only $50. It's not like one of those thousands of dollar watches. You lose that and you'll be calling up your insurance agent or the police. So I've worn these watches in all kind of weather, or all kinds of weather. Very durable. I don't wear watches that often, but if I'm traveling somewhere, I will wear a watch. Why? Helps me keep track of time. I know we have cell phones now and constantly but this is easier for me. Look at the wrist. And usually I wear the watch on top of the wrist. But I have been known in the past to wear it this way. And when I wear it this way, and I've mentioned her before, it reminds me of my music teacher. 6th, 7th grade music teacher, Mrs. Ellis, and she wore her watch like that. But I always thought that she did it that way to annoy me, or annoy the class, like so nobody could look at her watch and see what time it was, because there were no clocks in her room, and she was always doing this. Very secretive person. But anyway, I wear them like, I don't know, I kind of like it that way too. Oh, wow, this tea is fantastic. Got my Parker pens here. I have a lot of these. This is just a couple that I have here. Get that. It's a good looking pen. I love Parker. These pens have a history with me. Most of the stuff I've written in my life, most of my schoolwork, Parker pens. That's what I used. But there is a difference from the early ones that I had, the ones in school, and these. First of all, the cap on top. The old ones had an indentation, and it was more sturdy, the cap. And then the other thing that I noticed, in the old days, if you took a Parker pen and wrote with it, whatever, and then you put the paper up to your nose and took a whiff, the ink had a very pleasant odor. And I don't know if you want to say pleasant odor, but it had a pleasant fragrance. These just smell like ordinary ink now. And that's the first thing I noticed with a Parker pen now. Used to be I would write, and then you'd go, and it had a very, very pleasant odor. And I say odor, but it wasn't an odor. It was a nice fragrance. But now the ink doesn't really smell like, you could still smell it, but it smells like an ordinary pen. So I have these, the original looking ones. And then I have a Parker pen that is really nice. Look at that. It's a good looking pen. And this pen has some weight to it. You feel it. It's got some weight to it. A little bit of girth, thickness there. And very nice, comfortable feel. Very nice. I like this Parker pen. Yeah, that's a cool pen. A bit more expensive than those, but it's worth it. And this ink is not does not contain that pleasant fragrance that they had way back in the 70s. Yeah, and this one is a twist pen. I cannot tell you how many punishments I completed in my life using a Parker pen. I will not talk in class while the teacher is teaching. How many times did I write that? I have no idea. Thousands of times, literally, not exaggerating, thousands of times. I mean, first of all, there were 500 times each. You know, each time you get a punishment, it was like 500 times, and then a few times I got 1,000 times. And I'm older now, but it's like yesterday. Seems like yesterday. I remember getting home and thinking, oh man, I gotta write that stupid punishment out, and it's 500 times or it's 1,000 times, and I would postpone it. I didn't feel like doing it during the night. I wanted to watch a little television, you know, eat something, and, you know, just relax. I didn't feel like going to my desk and writing. I will not talk in class while the teacher is teaching. So I would leave it, and what I would do is I had a little clock on the desk right in front of my bed that would open up, and my parents got me that while I was in 3rd grade. So it had an alarm on it, and I would set the alarm for like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had a light next to my bed, and I'd flip the switch on when the alarm would go off, and I'd pull out the notepad, and I'd start writing, you know, in the middle of the night. And, you know, I'd write, and a lot of times I would just go, I, all the way down, you know, the page, and then do each word separately, you know, instead of writing the whole sentence across and across and across. I would just do each word all the way down, and 500 times would be 10 sheets back and front or front and back. 10 sheets, and 1,000 obviously, you know, would be twice that. But yeah, it was, you know, it was crazy that teacher loved that punishment. You know, and it wasn't like you were trying to talk. You would just forget about the punishment the next day. So I had a friend next to me. His name was John. It's like a really good friend of mine back then. And I'd whisper something, as you know, whatever, I'd say something, and right at that moment, the teacher would turn around, and he would say, "Excuse me, were you talking to your neighbor?" And I would be like, "My what? My neighbor? Well, my neighbor, I don't know." And he'd say, "Come up here for a sec," and he'd go up there, and he'd open up a drawer, and he'd pull out a nice notepad, you know, and he'd write, you know, on top, in his handwriting, you know, what the punishment was, and then he would write like 500X, and he'd hand it to you, and he'd say, I want it on my desk by tomorrow morning. And the thing I can say with certainty is that I never missed one time doing the punishment. I always had it ready every morning that he needed it or he wanted it, to make him feel like a man. Yeah, I always had it ready for him. And then, to make you feel defeated, he would rip it up in front of you and toss it in the garbage. He didn't even keep it on his desk for like a minute. It was instant. Throw it out. You know, just awful punishment. And the man is still alive today. He's on Facebook. I want to send him a message. You know, I want to say, that punishment was ridiculous. It was a waste of time. And I know his response will be, you wasted my time talking in my class. So, not really. I didn't stop him from teaching. I was whispering. But those are the young days of life. That's how it is. You can't be, like a museum piece. You're going to have these adventures. I do have something that, to this day, right now, at this moment, pisses me off thinking about it. We were coming back. This same teacher. We were coming back from a field trip. I think it was the Museum of Fine Art. And we were in a school bus, and my teacher was sitting a row in front of me, but diagonally across, like on the other side. And he was kind of looking, to his left. And there was a kid, his name was George, that was right on the other seat. The aisle is here, right next to the aisle. And he made a paper airplane, and the windows were open on the bus. And he took the airplane and flung it, and the airplane flew past the teacher and out the window. And he turns, the teacher, and he looks at him, and then he looks at me. And he couldn't figure out, which one of us did that, so he nabbed us both. Now, I know I didn't do it, and I know he did it because I was watching him, and he knew he did it, but he was afraid because he had gotten in trouble the week before over something, and he didn't want to get in trouble again, so he just stuck to his guns. He was like, that was not me, that was not me. So he brought us both in, and we sat there, and he said, you guys are going to stay here after school, and you're not going to go home until you tell me who did it. Well, since he wasn't talking, and I know I didn't do it, we just sat there, and we sat there, and we sat there, and I know that eventually, if both of us kept our mouths shut, I know it now, that he would have said, okay, you guys don't want to say anything, okay, go home. Because he wouldn't be able to keep us forever. There's a time that he would have to go home, too. It's not like the school paid him to stay there 24/7. And we were there for a while, and I wanted to get home. I didn't want to get home and have questions asked, like, why are you late? What happened? All that. Because I wouldn't tell him anyway. But anyway, so after about, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was, I said to my friend next to me, I said, let's go to the bathroom or something, and I'll tell you something. So we told the teacher, can we go to the bathroom? And we kind of gave a hint that we're going to, work this out. So we go down, and we're going towards the bathroom, and I could still see her walking down this long hall. And I turned to my buddy over there, and I said to him, listen, I know you did it, and I know you did it because you did it, and I saw you do it. But I'm going to say I did it, I told him, so we can get out of here. And he agreed. There was no argument about that. So anyway, we went to the bathroom, came back, sat down, and I looked at the teacher, and I said to the teacher, I did it. And he said, okay. And he dismissed the other kid. He kept me behind, and he said, I'm going to give you a few detentions for that. And he gave me a few detentions for that. And the worst thing that can happen to you, and the worst feeling you can have, is to be accused of something you didn't do, and to get punishment for that something that you didn't do. And I have experience with that. So anyway, I ended up getting a few detentions for something that I was totally innocent of. But problem is that when somebody gets it in their head that you're guilty of it, or you're guilty of something, even if you're not, doesn't matter. They treat you the same way. Doesn't matter. It's not like they say, well, I have some doubt. The second it gets into their brain that you've done it, that it's you, doesn't matter if you show them videotape that it wasn't you. Doesn't matter. You know, that's how stupid people are. It's like the brain doesn't have the capacity to distinguish fact from fiction most of the time. That's why so many people believe nonsense. But anyway, and my friend never, later on, as far as I know, he never went to the teacher and said, hey, remember that thing that you punished Nick for? Well, he was innocent. He didn't do that, you know, and then say, you know, that I did it. But that never happened. And I would have felt bad if somebody took the blame for something I did and they got in trouble for it and they got detention for it, not once, not twice, but several times. I would have to say something. You know, I would have to say that, you know, this is not fair. You're punishing him for something he didn't do. But that's life. That's life. How many times you get slandered in life and you did none of that, and then people just believe it. They believe it because it's easier to believe a lie like that than it is to struggle with the truth and have the benefit of the doubt given to someone, you know. Anyway, that's what happened, and to this day it annoys me thinking about it, but yeah, not as much as it annoyed me back then, though. And I wonder, that kid that I'm speaking of, his name was George. Last time I saw him, and this was many, many, many years ago, I think it was like 99, right around there, 1999, I saw him at Home Depot. And I should have asked him, hey, remember that time? He probably doesn't remember that. To him, it probably, you know, was a memory for a while, and then it just vanished. But, yeah. So, anyway, that's the way it goes. I have one of these. It's not a... No. This is made out of oak. Feels good to the touch, you know, nice and smooth. But this is for breaking in a baseball glove. I don't know what you do. You spin it around and whatever, and it breaks in the baseball glove. Also, you can take somebody's head off with this. I mean, it's got such a good balance that if you swing hard enough, you can crush somebody's head. I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying, you know, for self-defense, it's an option. So anyway, get that there. Then I have a big nail file over here, which I haven't opened up yet. Brand new, 12-inch. Look at that. I bought this to sharpen axes. What else do I have here? I have my knife, my cooking knife. Nice knife. Nice handle. Tang goes all the way through. I don't know if you could see. Good knife. That's about it. I see something else under there. I don't know what that is. Nice. Let me grab that. Oh, this is a good one. Wild berry drops. Get that. Little candy in there. I don't know how old that is. That may be from World War II. Yeah, years ago there were these little round things like that, small ones, and inside they had like cherry. Some of them were blueberry, not blueberry, raspberry, and I loved those. And I've recently found something that looks identical, except now they come in bags, and it's candy made in Germany. It's a bit expensive, but very tasty. You can't just have one. remember these candies when I was a kid, like third graders or whatever it was, and they were called now or later, something like that. Now and later, now or laters, and they were hard but not too hard, and they had a watermelon flavor. At least that's the ones we got. Come to the back where I was, and it would smell like watermelon candy. That was a big thing back then. The other thing that was big was sunflower seeds, but clean sunflower seeds, not with the shells. And we'd sit there munching. We'd open up the bag in the back, and then we'd, eat the sunflower seeds. There was a little store across the street from our school, and we'd cross over, and we'd buy a little bag of treats. Here's another thing that pisses me off. I was in the third grade. I could not stand this teacher. She kind of looked like Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, kind of. I mean, had a resemblance there. And some of the kids would joke with her, like, oh, you look like Wonder Woman and all that. And then she would, like, promote the idea. And, she would say, you know what I did during the weekend? And they would say, what'd you do? And she'd say, I flew to California and I shot an episode of the Wonder Woman show. So, yeah. And she was a screamer. Always screaming. One time she came in, and after screaming the day before, she said to us, I can't scream today. I went to the doctor and he painted my throat. To this day, I don't know what that means. The doctor painted her throat because her throat was bleeding. I don't know how long you have to yell before you start spitting up blood. But she claimed that she would spit up blood. So I don't know if that was true. But anyway, what was I going to mention? Oh yeah. So this happened, and this still annoys me that she did it. But anyway, so I had what was it, Bubble Yum back then? Bubble Yum was the popular gum that people would buy before Hubba Bubba. And I the bell rang. First of all, make it clear, the bell rang. School was done. We were in line to file out the door. And as I'm walking in that line, I'm ready to go out the door, I put a piece of bubble yum in my mouth. I start chewing it, and she saw this. And I hear her with that voice. She says to me, take that gum out and put it in a piece of paper, wrap it up, and throw it in the trash. And I said to her, school's done, I'm leaving. And she's like, I don't care. I don't care. Put the gum in a piece of paper, wrap it up, and throw it in the garbage. And I said, it's my last piece. And she said, I don't care again. And I go, okay. So I took it out. I had just taken 2 chews out of it. Matter of fact, when I pulled it out, it was still almost in the same shape that it would be in the wrapper. And, yeah, I missed that piece. And then I went home, and I was like, she could have ignored that. The whole policy about not chewing gum is because they think after you're done chewing it, you're going to stick it under the table. But I was already going home, so I wasn't going to, take a half-chewed gum and put it underneath the table. But she pulled rank. Yeah, she was just naturally a pain in the ass. Some teachers are cool. Some teachers, you break the rules, and they make a distinction. They go, well, that wasn't that serious, give them a break. And then other teachers, they don't care what the rule is. They're going to come after you. That's part of the enjoyment of being a teacher. So, yeah, I don't know whatever happened to her. There's a strong possibility that she's still alive because she was very young. I want to say she was not even 25 back then. Very young, maybe 24. And she used to wear knitted pants. Like somebody knitted the pants. They were like made out of that yarn material. Yeah, and she had a punishment table. In the back of the class, there was a table set up for, punishment. And on top of that table was a math workbook. And so if you were caught doing something like talking or, just being disruptive, she would send you back to that table. And you could spend a couple hours back there, and she would say, do pages, do the next 10 pages in that workbook. And so you'd start, adding things together, whatever. And then when I would get to a page that I didn't like, I would tear it out and I'd roll it up into a ball and I'd stuff it behind there was this, it was like a book, what do you call it? Like a bookcase. Yeah, bookcase is what you call it. And I'd stuff it in between the wall and the bookcase. And one time I looked back there, and there were probably like 20 sheets rolled up in a ball that I had put over the course of, a few weeks. I think, and I'm willing to bet on this if I were a betting man, but I don't bet. But if I were going to bet, I would bet that I spend more time at that table than anybody else combined. I'm not exaggerating. So yeah, that was an interesting class. Anyway, I'm not even sleepy. Everybody went to sleep. I'm up like an owl. I don't know. I'll watch a little bit. I don't know, something on YouTube, something interesting. What I'm fascinated with, uh, I'm fascinated with the whole idea of where the hell are all the intelligent life beings that are supposedly lingering around in the galaxy? Where are they? We haven't found anything. Nothing. Not even like, a small message come across and say, "Hey, we're here. How you doing?" So I'm very fascinated with that. With anything with the universe, just fascinating to me. When I was little, and even now, I would think about it, and I would think, what about if there was nothing? Like nothing. And it's hard to imagine nothing. I can imagine empty space with nothing in it. That's easy. But what is actually nothingness? Not even empty space, just nothingness. Even if it was that way, how would it be? Nothingness is weird. What would nothing be surrounded by? That's the whole thing. I mean, you get in a room, you say, oh, there's nothing in the room. There's nothing in here. But the room is there. It's just empty. And so it would boggle my mind when I was little. I would think about it. It would kind of like make me feel a little sad that, there was a possibility, or maybe not a possibility, but there could have been a reality. Well, I don't want to say there could have been a reality, but it could have been that nothing existed anywhere, in any dimension, in any place, anywhere. Nothing, no reality, no atom, nothing, including empty space. And it's just a weird concept for me. My mind just goes around in circles thinking about nothingness. And here we are in a universe that the observable universe, we don't even know what's beyond that, but the observable is like 93 billion light years across, which is crazy. I mean, you think of 93 billion and you go, whatever. But if you start thinking how fast you'd have to, travel in a rock, well, not how fast you have to travel, but if you were in a rocket, like say the Saturn V rocket, traveling, you would literally be traveling for infinity, because you'd never reach the other side. Even if you were able to live forever and you had an abundance of fuel, you would never ever ever reach the other side, if there is another side. But yeah, it's crazy that, it's such a big place, and the gaps between things is huge. I mean, you look at galaxies from a distance and they look congested, you know, billions of stars. But then once you get there, like in our place here, the Milky Way, the gaps between stars, like there's Alpha Centauri, 4.2 light years. That's nothing. But it would take 75 to 100,000 years using the fastest rockets we have today. And that would be like traveling 24/7. And it would take that long. You know, you're going at like 30,000 miles an hour. It would take like 75,000 years to get to the closest star. That's hard to believe. And that's only at 4.2 light years. Well, there are things in our galaxy that are thousands of light years away. So you can imagine the distance, you know, and it's just that's why they call it space, though. They're so far apart, but when you step back, it looks like a really densely populated galaxy. And it's not. It's almost empty, you know. I mean, it has things in it, but it looks empty. And the universe is like that. You back up far enough, and you take a picture, and you'll notice like galaxy upon galaxy upon galaxy. But then if you zoom in, you see how far apart these things are. So I've always been fascinated with the universe, its existence, where the material came from. Maybe it always existed and it just, you know, recycles, or maybe new parts are always being brought into existence, but the overall universe has always been there. And then you have the black holes. They're like vacuum cleaners. They suck in all the, you know, debris, planets, stars, whatever. And to me, they look like recycling centers. They get squeezed in, everything, you know, becomes brand new again. Kind of like going to Mako. And every galaxy, for the most part, that we've looked at, has a black hole in the middle. So yeah, it's like, you know, very fascinating. I'm hoping one day we get a breakthrough. Like you open up the news and they say, you know, headline, intelligent life discovered, or visiting us. It's visiting us. It's here right now. Wants to talk to the president. So yeah, it would be fascinating. I've been to Groom Lake, not inside, but you know, on the border, on the outside. I've parked my vehicle there, and just, you know, I mean, where the gate is, you still have to travel a distance to get into the base, but there's nothing there. Those are all stories. Area 51, Groom Lake, it's just a military base. Uh, it's top secret. They do, you know, top secret. My cat, something. They do top secret work there, but it's not like, you know, what they try and show you in the movies. Like they have alien ships there. It's not like that. I wish it was. I wish it was. And who knows? Maybe they have something. But if there is something, we don't know about it. And, you know, whoever knows about it is not saying much or anything. But my offer stands. If I'm in the desert and there's some UFO thing landing, and at that point I'll be able to identify it, I'll say, oh, that's an alien ship, and the hatch opens up, I'm going in there. I'm going in there. I hope they have oxygen. I want to breathe, you know, so I'll go with them. They can fly around, speed of light, come back here 300 years in the future. I'm fascinated. I will go. I am not scared. Not scared. What? Scared of what? You know, what are they gonna do? Like those dumb stories go? They're gonna open you up and do an investigation with primitive tools. These are aliens that are millions of years more advanced than us. They're able to fly across the galaxy and get here, and they're using crowbars and chisels to look at you with. You know, we have MRI machines right now. and they're still using metal instruments to probe? I don't think so. Anytime you hear a story, and they were more popular years ago, where they say that people, they were abducted and the aliens, you know, they did some surgery on them. These are all false, obviously. Anything that advanced is not going to be using tools from like the 4th century. So that's it. I don't have anything else interesting here to talk about. I don't know. What is this? Wires. So that's it. I'm gonna go to bed soon. See my cats. My cats, they can hear me, and the door over there has an opening, a gap underneath it, about that much from the floor. And they're sticking their paws underneath, and I could see them, like they look like windshield wipers. And now I see their shadow, so they can hear me, and they want to come in here. But I fed them. I put them fresh water. It's time for them to go to sleep and to rest those thoughts away. So that's it. I'm going to go to bed and prepare for a Sunday. I will say this. When I was younger, I don't know why I keep saying when I was younger. It could only be in the past if I'm saying something about the past. So obviously I was younger back then. But Sunday was a quiet day. Nothing was going on. You'd watch a little bowling in the afternoon. In the morning, who knows what was on. But not much was going on in those days on a Sunday. All the stores were closed. So you had to obey the law. You couldn't open up a store. If you had a mall, you were owner of a mall, you couldn't open it up. So what I would watch on television back then at 7 o'clock in the morning was that stop action thing called Davy and Goliath. And I didn't know back then it was a religious show. I just thought it was the adventures of Davy and his dog. So I'd watch that. They had this little rocket. They had a box. They'd hit the button, the rocket would go up, make a little loop, and then it would I don't know if it would blow up, but it would write Davy and Goliath, and then it would crumble to the ground, and they would be like, this. And they had the Lutheran sign. I didn't know it was a Lutheran sign back then. I think it was a Lutheran sign. It was a big emblem with a cross in it. And then the story would begin. And I love that family, the Hanson family. They even had like a Volkswagen van. And I'd watch that. Well, there were short episodes. I think they were like 15 minutes. And they always had a little cool story. Davy was always concerned. Had a few of his friends. He had a sister named Sally. Her hair was very stiff. But I used to enjoy watching that. Davy and Goliath. The dog would talk, but only Davy could understand the words. Everybody else, it was like barking. So yeah, now if you want to watch that, you go on YouTube. So that's it. I'm signing off, and I'm going to go get some rest upstairs. So good night.